Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is come. And this is really our verb of the week because there are so many different ways to use this particular verb. I'm going to have a link in the description below the video that links to the other videos in this series discussing that particular verb. And I know if you're a regular watcher, in many of my videos, I start with some basic definitions or basic ways to use the verb. I'm going to skip that because I discussed that in part 1, so you can find a deeper dive into those first 4 definitions. But I think it is worthwhile repeating that come is an irregular verb. And that is something that can be a little tricky for people who are learning English. So let me note really quickly, our past tense form of the verb is going to require a spelling change. You're going to change the letter O to A, and now you're going to pronounce it with a long A sound, came. The participle form of our verb is going to change back to our base verb. So we're going to go back from A to O, and it's going to have the same pronunciation, come. Okay. Now I think we're ready to discuss some phrasal verbs. This is part 4 of our discussion. Today we're going to start with the phrasal verb come before. This can have a couple different meanings. One might be to happen or exist before something else. An example of this might be, does your birthday come before mine? Okay, so this is a simple present yes or no question, right? We're asking about a factual piece of information here. We want to know, does your birthday occur earlier? Does it happen earlier? Another way to use come before is to formally present oneself to another person or a group. An example of this might be, they will come before a judge tomorrow. And I think that's a really common way to hear it used in connection to legal proceedings, formally appearing before a judge. Will come before is an example of the simple future using will. We still have some more ways to use come before. I'm sorry, I think I said there were 2, but we actually have 4. The third way to use come before means to be more important than something else. An example of this, your health comes before work. Somebody who says that is telling you, right, that's more important. Take good care of your health. That's another simple present sentence. A fourth way to use the phrasal verb come before means to be a topic of discussion or deliberation. So people are considering it. An example of this might be, the proposal came before the city council last night. Here's a simple past tense sentence. So it means the people serving on the council considered, maybe discussed, maybe they heard comments, they received other information about some new idea, or maybe it's a new policy that is being proposed. The next phrasal verb we'll discuss is come between. The first way to use come between is to be positioned between 2 people or 2 things. An example of this, if we line up alphabetically, I'll come between Jane and Laura. Okay, so my name is Katie, starts with the letter K, right? So Jane, alphabetically in English, J comes before K, K comes before L. So that's what we mean. Another way to use come between can mean to cause problems for a relationship. An example of this might be, financial issues came between them, and so they broke up. So here's another simple past tense sentence. We're saying problems related to money caused bigger problems for this relationship. Maybe we had people who were dating and they have decided to date other people or no longer date that particular person. The next phrasal verb we'll discuss is come by. This can also have a few different meanings. We're going to discuss 3. The first way to use come by means to possess or get something. An example of this: her curly hair comes by her mother. So it means kind of that gene was passed down, right? She obtained that particular feature from that particular parent. A second way to use come by means to visit a place. This is commonly used in the imperative with a command. So an example of this might be, come by my house after work, right? I'm asking you, stop and visit at that particular place. A third way come by gets used is to mean to travel using a particular mode of transportation. An example of this: did you come by car or bike? Right? So we want to know, how did you get here? The next phrasal verb we're going to discuss is to come close to. This can also have a few different meanings. The first is to physically move towards someone or something. You're moving nearer. An example of this. Another imperative here: come close to the tank so that you can see the fish, right? We're telling someone to move towards this object. Another way to use come close to means to nearly or almost do something. So you're not quite to that point. An example of this: we came close to hitting that car. You might say that if you're with a kind of dangerous driver, or maybe someone else came, some other driver, right, put you in a dangerous situation. So it's like saying, we almost hit that car. We came very close, but it didn't actually happen. We came close to hitting the car is an example of the simple past tense. The third way to use come close to can mean to be similar to someone, or to have two things that are similar. Okay? Many times this gets used with a negative. So here we're saying, oh, it's not similar. So an example here: no other student in class comes close to doing as well in this activity. Oh, if I'm saying this to one student, this one student is performing really, really well. And in fact, other students in the class are not performing even close to that particular level. There's no one similar. Okay. Now let's talk about some other phrasal verbs. The next one is to come down. Okay. This can have a few different meanings. The first can mean to decrease. An example of this: will you come down on the price? Right? We're asking someone to lower or reduce it. That's another yes or no question in the simple future. A second way to use come down means to originate or be decreed from a higher authority. So you have somebody telling others, this is what is happening. Or in our example sentence, it's going to be like, this is our new rule. This new policy has come down from the CEO. Okay, so here they're telling us the CEO made the policy. Now we all have to follow it. That's an example of the present perfect. You will also hear a third way come down gets used. I mean, to be ill, to be sick. An example of this: he came down with the flu yesterday. Right? So there's the particular type of illness. And the next phrasal verb we're going to discuss is to come down on. Okay? This can also have a number of different meanings. One would be to scold or reprimand someone harshly, right? They're getting in trouble. You're telling them they've done something wrong. An example here: the supervisor came down on the employees who arrived 15 minutes late. Okay, so let them know this is unacceptable. You can't do this. Okay. Another way to use come down on is to establish one's opinion or one's views on something. An example of this: where do you come down on this issue? Right. So I might be asking, are you for it? Are you against it? What are your thoughts? Okay. Another phrasal verb to come down to. This means that something is amounting to the most important or the most crucial part. An example of this. His decision comes down to salary. Okay, so here, maybe someone's considering two different jobs. Right? The most crucial thing that's going to influence his choice, does he pick the first one or the second one? It's going to be how much does that particular job pay? The last phrasal verb we'll discuss today is to come for. This can also have a couple different meanings. One is to go and seek something, and you're trying to retrieve it, maybe bring it back with you or bring it to another place. An example here, you might hear somebody say, I came for the dessert, right? So they're here to get some of the sweet foods. Maybe it's cookies, cake, and so forth. Another way you'll hear come for used can mean to challenge or target someone. So I know I've heard athletes and teams use this when they're talking about their opponents, people they'll be competing against. They might say something like, this team is coming for us, right? They're going to be challenging us. They're going to be trying to beat us. That last sentence is as an example of the present progressive or present continuous. So we're talking about something that's happening now. Now, let's spend a little more time talking about some words and phrases that are related to our verb come. The first word we're going to discuss today is a noun. It's comeuppance. Comeuppance. I know that's kind of a long and maybe strange looking word. When people use this noun, they're referring to punishment. And many times it's connected to this idea of someone deserves it. They have acted in a bad way, right? And eventually, right, they're going to be punished for that bad act. So you might hear someone wondering, has he gotten his comeuppance yet, right? Wanting to know, has he been punished? Has kind of the universe treated him harshly because of that bad behavior? Another phrase we might encounter is come again, right? And these two words here are usually said as a question. So you're going to notice people's voice go up again, go up at the end because they're asking you to repeat something or maybe even explain it. This is sort of like saying, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it? So come again is asking someone to either repeat or explain. So I'm going to give you an example of when this could have been useful in one of my classes recently. So I was teaching certain words to students, and I noted in these words, the letter CH were actually making a sh sound, okay? And the looks I got from students, like, huh? So this would have been a good time to say, come again, right? Repeat that. Maybe you're going to have to explain that a little more, Katie. Another phrase that includes come is how come. People will use this as another way to say why. So they're asking why something has happened or maybe why something is true, why it is the case. An example of this, how come you haven't been at work this week? Okay. If we ask the question, why haven't you been at work this week? That would be fine. It would have the same meaning. Why do people use how come? I'm not exactly sure. I know the history of this, but it is a turn of phrase that occurs more often in speech than it does in writing. Another phrase you might encounter is to come as no surprise. This means this thing, this information, whatever it might be, is expected, right? So here, no one is surprised. No one is shocked. An example here, another personal one. It will come as no surprise. I love teaching. I hope that comes across in my videos. One last phrase for today's video, and that is first come, first served. When people use this phrase, what they're noting is at a particular spot or at a particular event, people are going to be dealt with in the order that they arrive. So here it might not matter that someone has an appointment, or maybe there are no appointments available. It just means whoever shows up, they get helped first. So an example of this, it's first come, first serve with these tickets, so we better get there early. This is suggesting like we can't reserve any in advance. Maybe we have to be there in order to receive them. We can't do this from a computer, right? We have to physically go to a place to obtain or get these tickets. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you'll tune in later for part 3 of our discussion. Have a great day.